It takes a second for it to pair up.
It's great, everything was great, they're in there and they have, furniture building, because that's what you do now. Yeah. It's good. We made settlement on the condo. Made shade and we posted the next in, yeah, and it's great, perfect. Perfectly start out.
Is it good?
So. For a long battle, trying to find something that it's good. Like it's pretty correct. I was received, but I've only had a few meetings. What I'll do is go along with it, very best in the with the charge and so I won't be able to give you that, but I can put that through and I'll put it through and when we go to pay it, you just confirm that you. All right, yeah, there's one thing for that. Okay. All right. Did you do a rep? Did I? Yes, you gave me that. And then I edited it. The first one had yeah. Okay. Thank you. Oh. I'm so happy. Please put a correctly in. Please, good figure. I know it's in there. That's good. Congratulations. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. So everybody charge for people that do you need to find someone else? And what do they need to change? What are the important now and what is time? And so there's people we offer this. I mean, one was coming and people mean and I did it for leaving the I mean, they don't have that necessarily have like we was going to have to get this other thing. Yeah, we will it was split up the town second. And then moving on, we ready to vote? Good. I'll order this meeting for council. Mr. Wood, you need some questions. I pledge allegiance to the United States of America. And to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. Thank you, everybody. This meeting is being held in compliance with the New Jersey Open Public Meetings Act. It's been advertised in retrospect on the bulletin board downstairs and through all official borough social media. I have those present. If you have a cell phone, please put it on silent. If you need to speak with somebody while conducting business, please do so outside of council chambers. Roll call, please. Mr. Fitzgerald.
Present.
Mr. McLean.
Here.
Ms. Morales. Here. Mr. Carter. Mr. Bradford.
Here.
Mr. Woods.
Here. Thank you very much. Okay, first item on the agenda is the public portion of the meeting. Anybody from the public who wishes to come forward and speak on any topic, please come forward, state your address. Here and seeing none, we'll move on to the public portion of the meeting. Move on to our engineer's report. Mr. Lee, good evening.
Thank you. Good evening, Mr. Mayor. As of the last meeting, we got information that the roofing contract under the CTVSC COA was renewed. I think it's as of tomorrow. So scheduling and doing inspection of the roof to get quote for the replacement for all. We're trying to move on it as quickly as possible. with the award for 2023 road program. We'll provide a proposal for engineering services before the next meeting, with the hopes of coupling the 2022 and 2023 projects together. Get, back with that. And we'll meet with Kevin Patty, we talked about this week, for the local stormwater reporting and moving forward with this program.
Okay. As I think we've talked about on a number of occasions, and I'm not certain how we can do this, but that fire lane on the west end, as West Pinkham neighborhood, that is between, I think, Hamilton and what's the next one over? Poplar.
Yeah, connected to 706.
Yeah. I recognize that there are some limitations to the grant funding in the state of New Jersey in terms of what it can be used for. I think we need to find a way to somehow, if we can't get that done through those monies, I do think we have to consider a way of stabilizing that area so that it's safe for both the residents and also for access for fire. I know that we were doing and taking some immediate measures to utilize the bill and material that we had. I also understand through various conversations with that washed out fairly quickly. And I think that we need to look for a more permanent solution there. My biggest concern would be stormwater management in that area and how we would deal with that. So that's just me on the soapbox right now. If we can find a way to get that done, so long as we're not, deprioritizing something else that is very high.
Okay.
But this, I think that's important. I know we've talked about it for a number of years. So that's all I had with regards to the road program in 2023. Other questions? Is engineering report?
Is there options other than just paving it, like tar and or stone, so we can look at? Yeah,
Yeah, we could start putting millings in there, that becomes an issue with it. They need known to become a hazardous material, but we typically put it in farmers in DGA in the contract where we got base repairs. But there could be a means.
I mean, even if we do something like that, then if we ever get dog paving in the future, it's just solid base.
Yeah, I would want something that's more permanent than 6-12 months, if that exists, but is the Band-Aid to a bridge, if you will, to a more permanent solution. I'm willing to look at all options, so it's something that we've sort of kicked down the road for a long time. And I know that it is impacting the quality of life of the residents there. I know that it's a public safety issue, so it's that. So I'm open to a number of different options. I read an article CNN over the weekend about the Romans and it's marvelous technology, the concrete, the self-healing. So listen, it was actually pretty incredible to read that. I don't know. I'll give you the equivalents for years. Scientists who have been studying the concrete in Italy have always wondered how precise the Romans were with everything, how they made the concrete, why it would look so sloppy with these little white blotches sort of throughout the concrete. The reality is that was not, what was it, lime slack or something like that. It's a different cluster of lime that they put in there. And as it gets wet, it will then spread throughout into the cracks to re-solidify the concrete. It's, I don't say a lot of nice things about the Italians, but I always said that.
Well, we know.
Hey, so it goes to sorry, all my time for the question. So that's it. Okay, 7:37, Mr. Colonel is present. Thank you. Okay, anything else for the engineer report? All right, thank you, Mr. Liz.
Thank you.
Over there. Correspondence? Nothing? Okay, move right into council reports. Ms. Woods.
Thank you, Your Honor. Not much to report tonight. The joint land use board is meeting tomorrow for the reorganization meeting. And on Wednesday, the Northville Safety Committee will be meeting to talk about their Arbor Day celebration for this year, which they're planning to build a tiny forest, which we'll all be interested in learning more about in the coming weeks.
What's that?
They're looking, it's a something that's happening in other communities where they're building a small area that's just highly planted, the trees and other shrubs.
And they have
They're the planting phase, the last location and that is their plan.
I will respond to their presentation.
I will put that on my website.
All right.
And that's all I have.
All right, any questions, Mr. Woods?
Thank you, Your Honor. The Commercial Diversity Committee held its first meeting last Tuesday, which was January 3rd. This was an opportunity for us to welcome our two newest members, Mrs. Melanie Gaskins and Mr. John Woodruff. In our meeting, we kind of gave our newest members a recap of our past actions over the last couple of years, and spent a good amount of the meeting discussing our Martin Luther King Day Service Project, which will be at Hollywood Park next Monday, January 16th from 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. We kind of also talked about what to do in the future. This year we're looking at the weather is really nice, but just in case we ever have a snow event, it would be good to think about that. Whereas in our February meeting, which will be held the first Tuesday, we are going to hold our reorganization meeting and also create a calendar of our meetings for the 2023, which we will share. And that is all I have for you tonight.
Great. Questions from the only thing, Cindy, I would say is, I do know that the PTA is running an event at the same time for Martin Luther King on that holiday. I think it's on the same day.
Yes.
So just, I don't want to say we're competing against somebody, but they're to an extent we are. So I would suggest reaching out to other organizations within the borough, not the PTA, and just advise them that above and beyond just the social media policy to get, so it's a successful.
Sounds good. We have had a few community members actually reach out to me and are excited to participate in this committee that have a local business in town. She's been for her workers and some of the people who live in town also nursing building that is that's all. I figure it's community events. It's great to have our community members. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Okay. Mr. Fitzgerald.
Thank you, Your Honor. Just a few things. Board then held their reorg meeting last week, Thursday the 5th, where they swore in 2 new members. They have moved their meeting dates to the 3rd Monday of each month, with the exception of January, February, and April. Those would be the 4th Tuesday of the month, just to try to avoid one of the holiday issues. Outside of that, nothing new. DPW, nothing to report on, with the exception of a couple of issues over at the community center they're working on. Commercial Business and Professional Association had found a location for their meeting that they're holding this month on a gallery, where they're going to be looking to solidify some positions within that group to kind of make it a little bit more organized. And that's all I have for this.
Questions for Mr. Fitzgerald? And Sean, earlier late last week, Rebecca and I met to begin discussing about the micro grant opportunities, and there are a couple of different options that we received, a model that we received too. That I know Rebecca's going to be reaching out to you, and also for you to see some representation of the business community to get their input on what they think is reasonable for some of these merit grants. So make sure to connect with them on that.
Will do.
Thanks. Okay, Mr. Sprout.
Sure, Virtual Fire Department, last month, there's 38 calls, 20 in the borough, 12 in Sock, and 3 Ricochet, 1 calls with horsepower. The weekend of Christmas was pretty active. Christmas for the fire, unfortunately, they had 5 working calls, 3 dwelling, 2 commercial buildings. I believe most of them. I think there was 1 fire in the borough and 1 outside, I think, one storm. Obviously, it's often having that restaurant fire. We did receive a thank you card from resident Locust after a call. The fire department was dispatched to the unit block in Locust at 6:35 after a vehicle hit the dwelling off the scene. After the call, 2 firefighters were back to actually help for the home who was disabled. So we got a really nice thank you for the fire department back there and kind of fix it up their own time. So for the year, we ended up actually having, I believe, a total of 230 calls. So it's pretty average, but obviously volunteers are down a little bit. COVID has accelerated that, so anything about how to reach that next year is other than 1 fire department. They're all unpaid, so need to find a way to make sure they have enough resources to come in. I don't know how to do all this.
All right, questions for Mr. Borough? Okay, we'll move on. Mr. Booth.
Thank you, Your Honor. Regarding, I don't have the full statistics for the month of December for the virtual police department. But the calls for service were 1,097, perhaps a little bit later, into about 1,200 in the past 2 months. Of those 1,100 calls of service, I want to emphasize that 106 of those are positive, proactive community policing and engagement by our police department. For the year, the total number of calls of service was 14,419. Training in December, Officer Roseborough attended a 2-day training titled Surviving Critical Incidents Stress Management, and Sergeant Calloway also attended a 1-day outdoor test and certification class. Officer Balisana, the last month, Officer Blastamon, who again recently joined the force, has been assigned to the night shift with Sergeant Tapper. The chief reports that he's progressing very well, and the hopes are that come March, we will have his training completed and will count towards schedule. The police department was awarded a grant in the amount of $1,198.32 from the Body Armor Replacement Fund, BARF, program. This will offset the cost of 1 ballistic vessel that is purchased in 2023. You'll see under new business, we do have resolution 23-19. A lot of us have spoken in December about opportunities to reorganize and optimize the police department. We can discuss this now. We can certainly discuss it when the time comes to new business. And last but not least, I think today is Law Enforcement Appreciation Day. Thank you, Sergeant. Thanks a lot.
We'll discuss it. We'll pull that out of the consent agenda. We can discuss that at that time. If that's all right. We'll do it now. First, I'm going to the one thing is in Councilman McClune just touched briefly on the reorganization of the department. The chief and I had a number of conversations, and Councilman McClune is very aware of this. But as part of the chief's effort and his vision is he's also trying to seek out ways in which we can better measure the performance of the police department, looking to neighboring communities and not so neighboring communities to determine what type of key performance indicators you can find in the policing industry. And I don't know them personally, but I'm sure just like every other industry that's moved to an analytics-based type of system, there are key performance indicators. The chief is was really excited to be looking at that stuff and trying to identify the best ways so that he can put a report together that I think is both quantitative and qualitative on a monthly basis and on a quarterly basis. You know, something that makes a little bit more sense to us. to how the department's performing. And so I was encouraged by that. And I think that, you know, that and the reorganization that we'll discuss later are things that I think are showing the chief trying to find a way to think outside the box and trying to make our departments better. And, you know, I'm open to those things. So I just wanted to bring that, my discussion of it and on that issue. Okay, anything else for Mr. Herman?
Just abandoned properties has not changed. Actually, we have to move all the street property into the abandoned property. So now this is since and now that the court cases are. The other thing is paying the bills. Pay bills, the 471,536 and 68 cents. All of that. Extended by for this.
Perfect, awesome. Question? Hearing none. We'll move to the clerk's report. Ms. Kraus?
Thank you, Your Honor. I just want to let everyone know that Martin Luther King Day, we will be off of Borough Hall will be closed. And again, as indicated, please join her at Wellwood Park for the event at 10 o'clock. S'mores to Love will be taking place on February 10th. And got use of the area around the long weekend. So if anybody's interested in helping for 110, we're looking forward to that. A reminder that next Thursday is the Borough Hall dinner. If anybody is still interested and hasn't given an RSVP, please let Rebecca know. And we're having our first meeting for the tea party that's coming up. That will be via Zoom on Wednesday. If anybody's interested in helping out, let us know. And that's all I have. It's Monday, January. Correct.
Two things. One, the 19th is an internal. All our friends online,
Oh,
we love it, but it just
Right.
the borough staff
first, yeah.
holiday event. We'd love to treat you as well, but
Sorry.
not this year. That and the tea party was not a reference to the right thing to do. This is a
No, it-
reference to the event.
That's for you. Actual tea at the community. center.
Got it.
Yeah.
Got it. I'm not. Okay, thank you.
Your Honor, can I mention the court report because I know much time.
Absolutely.
The money turned over for the borough for the month of December was $4,021.76. Cases added were 104 and 398 cases were disposed.
Do we have the year-end report yet?
So, no, it's not on this one. There we some checks. But next one, I'm sure.
Okay, yeah. Okay. Ms. Gowan, the Rebecca, or the community development report? The Rebecca report? The Rebecca report.
Next meeting in a couple weeks, I have to coordinate with two businesses to add in their events as well as they know. And then we'll have that out for everybody, as expressed, we have the Club event coming up, the tea party, we're continuing. Efforts for the 150th celebration, working on not just video signature event, but now we're expanding into putting into like signature extras to go with its, merchandise and some other things, cookbooks and ornaments and things like that. It's kind of elevate the whole experience for everybody. We are working on a recreation grant through DCA that will be used for either playground equipment or lighting for the bike path. That's still kind of up in the air. And I believe that's all I have. Thank you.
It's in the,
Sorry.
you know the name of the recreation grant?
It is the local recreation improvement grant program, through DCA.
Thanks. Question. I'm trying to figure out where the money comes from. I'll take a look at it. I had had some email communication back and forth earlier, or I think text communication back and forth earlier today about this, because I'm just trying to figure out. You know, getting guidance what I think is more appropriate in the two, and based on the funding limits and things like that. So. I'll take it. There's no, is there a matching component?
No,
No, so. It should be okay to authorize them. Our community.
Yeah, a lot of this stuff here.
Okay, all right. Okay. Mr. Bruno.
Yeah, I just forgot that just should tell us where we are as a part of the budget process next couple of weeks. So.
Okay, see it. All right, I guess that takes care of the CFO report too. Anything else? Thank you very much. All right, old business downtown redevelopment area. I really don't have any updates from last week. I gave an update on what was going on. Things are moving along.
Yeah, we're super busy out there. Yeah, it seems really busy out there.
I got I received maybe 3 or 4 days ago a video of a drone going over the roof. Oh, and back, yeah. It was pretty cool, but they had stripped it completely down. It was moving forward. It's continuing to move forward. So all positive. And I do know I've had conversations. I know the attorney involved, so we're getting close to the end of it when we can see real documents and try to get this to move forward. No. That's not they were at 150 was their cap.
Yeah.
They are, I think the number's gonna come in total all in at 180. So we're gonna do an adjustment and see just that's the number is to say it isn't there. And they asked him as like we're gonna work on it for you guys approve it. Like, okay, well I need to approve it still. So we're working on getting the events done. So but that's still pretty good given the amount of work that they did interior and then full roof. The roof itself, I think is literally. And they're doing full roof, even the flats, which are in perfect condition, we were told. You know, if a flat roof is going to be in perfect condition,
They said about
the minute it's poured is the first minute that work. Anyway, that's it. New business. We have use of facility for the tennis community center. That we have the tennis program that Mr. Net runs, which is fantastic. And as is custom, the Net provides us with her start date, the area that she's using, access to the restrooms. She has information about tournaments, and insurance and all those things, correct? So she's, you know, she's doing everything she can for us. It's great. So I don't know who is gonna bring this, would someone like to do all of that for approval? Mr. Parnell, who's that? Who was the second? All in favor? Opposed? Abstentions? Perfect.
I think that resolution is worth noting that we should probably go back and revisit the conversations we had last year about for-profits and non-profits using these facilities. I know that's a conversation we're having in the fall, but we should probably pick up on that.
That's a good point, and that had to do with
That was an ordinance.
an ordinance that we had sort of begun and considered putting together. Can we put that on? Let's put that on for discussion on the 23rd, just as a discussion item, just to, you know, try and put the timeline together and understand what we're gonna do. Because that, you're right, we lost track of that, thank you. Okay, so for the resolutions, I wanna, let's consider 2319 and then 2322 separately as well, because I just wanna clarify 2322 that maybe not all council is aware of, so. The other three, 2320, 2321, and 2323. Everybody was taking those as a consent agenda. So let's do the consent agenda first. Resolution 2320, refund for open payment. Resolution 2321, approve change order number 2 and final payment for municipal aid road project. Resolution 2323, authorization to apply for recreation improvement grant. Do I have a motion on this? First is Arnold, second is Mr. Borough. Roll call please.
Mr. Fitzgerald.
Aye.
Mr. Nicholas.
Yes.
Ms. Morales. Yes. Mr. Carter.
Yes.
Brad.
Yes.
Mr. Lewis.
Yes.
Thank you. Next, we'll talk about resolution 2319, amending salary ordinance appointment of new positions. I'll entertain a motion to introduce that resolution. Second. I have a motion, sorry, we made it first. Ms. Morales, second, Mr. Carter. Discussion, Mr. McClune, you want to just frame it or just whatever you're framing or the council?
Sure. On behalf of Chief Rossiter, this particular resolution specifically addresses reestablishing 2 lieutenant positions back in the department. So today, the supervisor structure is 5 sergeants. It's kind of a flat organization, and one of the things that the chief seeks to do is to kind of provide a career growth. I think we've attracted a lot of great young talents in the past couple of years. And there's an opportunity by having some roles staggered. So yes, there's the 2 lieutenant, but there's also the 2 corporal roles, which are steps below the sergeant. So more of a career growth for some of our young officers as we look to retain them, we're going to continue to stay with the department for many years. The financials related to the specific position or qualified position in total. Over the course of the meeting, the product will have formally that shared the big number. It's basically a lot for 3 years, very small savings over a 3-year period. But again, it's also based on the current assumption, the current contract model, and other variables staying constant. So again, it's my hope that council, again, I've spoken to many, sort of sees the same vision that Chief Garcia has laid out for this department. I agree with women and hope to have your support this.
Questions?
So, one, I do agree with you on the financial aspect of this. So, the lieutenant positions, we did that through the finance side as well. With, actually, overall, I think the good strategy for the borough. My concern actually falls back to 1 lieutenant position, though, it's thinking the title from lieutenant detective to lieutenant administration. And that's my concern, is that as part of that whole restructuring is more than just making the lieutenants. It was also, the last time I saw a resolution, I thought it's supposed to be lieutenant administrator. Yeah, lieutenant as opposed to
Correct. I would start with that to an admin.
we thought first on it is. The bottom line is that administrative position is what I'm concerned about. I don't mind the promotion and change the title and everything going on with it. It's the change in administration. And if you recall, I sent an email and she outlining a request for information. It's still unanswered. And that's my concern, is that I don't have information. Specifically what I'm looking for was, there were a couple of questions I had. One, there was a number of trainings that we had previously asked our police department to undertake for the officers, de-escalation, things like that. And those activities have not been accomplished. The reason why we were previously told they were accomplished because there wasn't enough time for the officers to be able to take time off the street. This would overburden the officers that were there. And my concern there is if that was going to revert, now this plan is to pull one of the officers off the street and make him a detective. And
That's not. This is Sergeant Detective Callaway, and I think what admin was being used was just to overseeing the detective bureau, but having other responsibilities.
okay.
And then But the training one, I wasn't familiar with, I haven't heard that one right before. I got Jordan here, and I know we did a lot of the training, the escalation, because, right, I mean, they did training every month, so I'm just.
And then, so just, but if we're gonna make it, I guess my question, we're gonna make this an administrative lieutenant's position. Why are we taking someone out of detective? I understand what oversee detective here, that means there's another detective coming in.
Again, I think that's part of the plan, I think that would be a different resolution, but I don't know if that requires a resolution.
Is that not part of this? There's no detective? We're just gonna keep
There's
it.
two things. I think the long-term vision is that there would be a different effective, that would be in the position, but it wouldn't be in the traditional sense of what the borough has.
But that's not like a secretary. That may be like a search, like, you're kind of one question I asked, and there's been no response. And that's what I'm. Well, no, there is response. There's a lot of things.
Basically everything you've asked and.
Correct. You're right.
You're right. We asked for a lot of information and we can Christmas. So to be fair here, the reality is, well, I care. Sorry, you can finish before I.
No, you're right. I mean, I wasn't, that's an over conversation. I mean, and it was, it's a lot of information I asked for. I just feel that this is a big change, and I want to make sure we're doing the right thing. And what I haven't seen, and I guess this is really what I'm really trying to drive at is, just explain to me why we have to bring on another full-time administrator, and we have that is no longer doing the secretary. What were the specific duties that happened over the last year and a half that increased the position for the sergeant from sergeant detective to now that they're only going to do administrative role all the time. Now, I'm not saying there haven't been increases there. I'm just curious what they are and how much time is that going to do because I think that's a part of the conversation. So my biggest concern at the end of the day is if I'm reducing the street officers by 10% of time. So we have 10 officers on the street, and we're now going to make 9 officers on the street, one being pulled back to be a detective off the street. If that's a 10% reduction in that time frame, like at some point, is someone going to come back and be like, we need another officer back on the street?
So to answer your question, I've had this discussion. I talked with you. With Councilman Sbraza, clearly with Councilman Bloom, I'm sorry for that, but I know Andrew spoke to all of you, and I've spoken to Chief about this at length. And I will say, from the time my experience, right, which starts with being director of public safety a decade ago at this point, to now, the change in the administrative requirements police is through the roof, and some of that is related to changes in the Attorney General guidelines and things that have to be filed. So that's very real, and I can feel it, I know it, I cannot itemize it or give you data to back it up. But I do know it's real. But I would also say this, and what I had said to the chief about this was, look, we're going to look at this. If this is approved, and I believe it should be, it will be reviewed, and there will be a tight leash if after 6 months we look at this, we're not happy and things are not good. There will be a directive to roll it back to what it was. And I think that's part of that idea of creating key performance metrics. How are we actually performing? What are the man hours for the street? The chief has assured me time and again, there will be sufficient man hours on the street. We will not be losing man hours. I understand that it seems that the math doesn't work. It does seem like he'll be able to at times pull people in spots and have a little bit more flexibility to do that. So I would say, I mean, I felt very comfortable with the discussion after having that discussion with the chief. I know there is information out there that would better justify it, and I completely believe that. I understand also that there are questions outside of this. I will say that although this is in a vacuum, it is only increasing or changing these positions at the moment. There will be impacts down the road as the chief has presented, so. I've said, I'm supportive of it. I think that he will be able to utilize the resources he has to continue to police our community effectively, and as well as we expect him to do, and the residents do, we are residents. And the moment that he's not, I think he's well aware that he knows that's his job and he has to do that. I feel comfortable with that. I wouldn't say that I don't have or share some of the concerns, but I feel comfortable that the chief will be able to do that. That's where I am. Other discussion. Unfortunately, he was going to be here because his wife got pulled into work. He had to be home with the kids. So I as a father of kids, I can appreciate that. But I would say this: the chief has been open meeting on this, and he will continue to feel. He's not somebody that's opposed to a policy. And he, like I, can initially be a little rough about things, but he is a reasonable human being. He's, I think he's good with us. So anyway, other discussion and
Just to kind of echo what Councilman Borough said, my concern is we haven't been able to quantify that for how we have lost. So if we're going to be doing a 6-month review, I think we need to identify on a week-by-week basis how much effective portion, because I know obviously we're not looking at that, but by default, by voting on the resolution, you're opening up that slot to now be taken by a full officer. Right. And I know Sergeant Calloway knows, I better than all of us, get stuck in the office a lot, doing a lot of that paperwork that's associated with that. So how many hours from stuff can throw free time? I mean, I think we're going to have 11 patrol officers, so we'll be going down to 10 and some change, some percentage of that person doing it. I know it's second position, so it's not necessarily about quantity, it's literally about the man hours.
right.
Going back to Councilman Colonel's conversation, one of the conversations we had during budget last year was CIT crisis intervention training. It is a legislature management that all departments have. And that is something that the Attorney General's piloting right now in a number of counties. With a number of departments. If I was ever be managing this department, we'd never do it facility because it takes full officer training and it's a week long training. So 1 week times 14, that's 14 weeks with one officer down. And knowing what we went through a couple of years ago with PSP side work, the lack of officers, if one officer right now goes out of medical leave, how are we back with that? Because now we have even additional.
Well, and I think, and not, I'm not going to put words in the chief's mouth, but I believe the flexibility that this allows us that if that were to happen, and we were to have to say, hey, whoever the detective is now, we're gonna need you to go back into the patrol unit for X period of time, then Detective Calloway or Sergeant Detective Burnley, mostly tonight would be lieutenant, when he's sworn in, he would, I believe, would be able then to fill into that role. And I don't want to put words in his mouth, but he's not. So, and be able to fill that role for that limited period of time, and so that staffing is still not impacted. But again, I think that's a discussion I have with the chief, but I believe that's how that happens.
Yeah, and the concern isn't with this resolution, it is the compounding effect that it's how does that back us to the corner? I mean, we all do know essentially about what's happening to guidelines and mandates that we've done. The other part that, part of the request of chief was to have that because there's a local finance book, I mean, I don't know if there's a potential that we can file something today because the additional mandates that they're requiring another 10 to 15 hours a week in reporting. The local mandate, local pay, fourth pay. And so there is an aspect, could that offset those costs? And I think we need to look at that. I'm not sure if it's a challenge, but I think we should explore that.
We talked about this, that's why we were talking this later, we were talking about that specific issue. And I agree, and I think we look at that and we get on one of our legislators and talk with the local finance board and see what we can do. We can't be the only ones that are dealing with the enhanced increased administrative burden of running the department, while at the same time, stuck with a budget that can only increase so much on an annual basis. So it's not like you just pick and create a position. So I agree with you guys.
The third part of this, we have a need for administrative support across the road. The other factor of this is, certain aspects of the responsibilities would probably be best bringing up officers time to do police work and administrative work being freed up at one, likely lesser salary. And two, during regular work hours. I when code has it, fire has it, police have it. Is there, one of the things I asked Chief is part of this is if he needs additional administrative help, is there a way to do it at lower costs? Bring someone in, look at some people, they might not be here forever, or confirming the next wave of succession, I think is part of that, to learn the actual borough, to learn the functions, learn the departments.
I believe me,
But, and I say that because, you did write a job function. It's very much in line with what you expect, but also we free up that labor to do other work. And that's part of the broader conversation. So as much as I understand the need for these dependents, are we considering the broader aspects of the borough and the workforce that we have and right sizing to the needs? And I think that was sort of, we kind of looked at it very narrow point. And maybe it should have been in the context of bigger restructure, then I'm here to have this conversation.
we have been, and we're working through that. Each of the departments has provided me an org chart at this point. We've gone through and had discussions about ways in which we can maximize the existing org chart. And wondering about timelines and what happens and who will, what are we going to need? And there are resources that I think ultimately will be available. So there are, one way or another, moving from here to there. I do believe that. It's not set in stone, but there are options. I feel like we have some options, and I would tell you before I got on to the idea of looking at reorganization and even org planning this entire, business, if you will. I was very concerned. I felt a lot worse than I do now, looking at where we are. And I think we'll have an opportunity in the next few years to combine some of the part-time into newer staff who are having more functions. And it is an ongoing battle. I agree with you.
I mean, this is difficult. It's not, I think it's hard to discuss this resolution ordinance in the context of itself, because on a surface, I understand and seeing what's happening a lot of work with these mandates and paperwork and reporting and publicly, whether it's use of force reports or, over requests and everything else. And, body can't purpose that's created. I mean, it has created, and this is something we've been talking about for some time now. It's more of a matter of the compounding effect, knowing that we have no more wiggle room within the budget.
Right.
And police does cost over 60% of our budget. One small structural changes, you have trickle effects. I want to make sure we're recognizing the trickle down effects. I mean, if we're willing to say this is a pilot and the chief's able to come back and say, listen, the detective side work, the kind of this many hours, it was highest on this many nights or this many calls of a week and hours, and that's what we're going to break down that type of information. And whether it had a demonstrable impact on control, but I mean, that's, if you walk the street, it's surprising to imagine we talk about all those other issues going on, over that, but this way. I don't know about you guys, but the number one question is about our police. Can we see more, you take care of the speeding, the running stop sign, all that stuff. I know that's not part of this conversation, but it's what it is.
I think my recommendation would be to ask the chief to really focus and prioritize on creating those key metrics that we can look at, not just for this, but specifically for this, and then as a whole of the department, and try and get those in place in a short order, working with Councilman Clooney to make sure, okay, these are the right reporting metrics. This is going to be a good way for us to measure the success or failure of this program. And do that, in a 6 to 12 month window, looking at that, getting the KPIs done in the first month or so. So at least we have something to measure on that we feel good about. And then, quite frankly, I think he, as a department head, with a unit of the largest employee base that we have, would want to know that and know that his staff is performing at a high level as well. And he can hold them accountable if those metrics are telling you the trends are moving in not a great direction.
I would ask that court. The number of measures.
Yeah, like, that's not a permitted metric, so we won't be doing that.
We're taking the shoot.
Yes. What other questions? Concerns? All right, roll call.
Mr. Fitzgerald.
Aye.
Mr. McLean.
Yes.
Ms. Morales. Yes. Mr. Turner.
Abstain.
Mr.
Abstain.
Mr. Wood.
Yes.
Thank you. Next is the appointment of the OEM coordinator. Resolution 23-22. This is appointing Lieutenant Callaway to the OEM coordinator position for a 3-year term. And the reason why I separated it was there was some discussion as part of this global discussion about exactly how this was going to work. And the parties agreed, and we had this discussion that this is going to be outside of his lieutenant position. It's going to be a stipend position, similar to how it was for the neighborhood preservation program, where there was a stipend that was provided just for that program. And Lieutenant Callaway is aware that I think that means that that's not pensionable dollars, correct? And it is not, it doesn't count towards it. And he understands that, and we came to a number of $3,500 annually. And look, my feeling is depending on how many emergencies we have to deal with them, hopefully none. That, you know, the time, yes, and effort will be justified by the stipend. And otherwise we'll review it, you know, when we need to. So that's why I pulled that out. I know there was some questions about that. I want to make sure it was clear. So on that, do I have a motion? So first, Mr. Turner, second, Mr. Sparrow, discussion on that. Hearing none, roll call please.
Mr. Fitzgerald.
Aye.
Mr. McLean.
Yes.
Mr. Morales. Yes. Mr. Turner.
Yes.
Mr. Sparrow.
Yes.
Mr. Wood.
Yes. Thank you. Council, I have one walk-on resolution here that I believe we need to do, that is for the authorizing the execution of the agreement for the Mercantville Monster Crafts and Fine Arts Festival. We've had discussions and Rebecca, you know, fill in any of the gaps that I create here with them and talk about and have, you know, sort of feedback from the first event, which was successful. There's some things that the timing was a little late. It conflicted with some things. They wanted to keep it in the Monsterville period clearly. So they moved into the first full Saturday and Sunday. First of all, 7th and 8th of October. And I believe that Rebecca, correct me if I'm wrong, we looked at the calendar, that felt like the right place, and they were amenable to moving into that. It's going to still be a 2-day because they believe that that is the best way to get good artists who are committed. This will so allow us to continue to have the radius.
Okay, so zoning run out of Long Beach. We've heard this year and it's all the haunted house in school, nothing else will be impacted by information.
You may recall last year, this ran up against the fall day or whatever day, we wrote about stalking parents and one other community. So it was successful, but we feel like the weekend was a tough weekend. Trying to move it. So
Perfect kickoff for us.
correct. So I'll entertain a motion.
So
Mr. Fitzgerald, first, second, Ms. Morales, question. Hearing none, roll call.
Mr. Fitzgerald.
Aye.
Mr. McLean.
Yes.
Morales. Yes. Mr. Turner.
Yes.
Mr. Sparrow.
Yes.
Mr. Wood.
Yes.
Thank you. Financial. Earlier.
Yes, board.
At this time, I'd like to move resolution R 23-24 for ordinance to it's 68 cents.
Resolution moved on, right, second.
second.
Second, Mr. Fitzgerald. Any discussions? Roll call.
Mr. Fitzgerald.
Aye.
Mr. McLean.
Yes.
Ms. Morales. Yes. Mr. Brenda.
Yes.
Mr. Brazza.
Yes.
Mr. Lewis.
Sorry, yes.
Okay, announcements? No announcements, the only announcement is to reiterate, we have the day of service for the DE diversity committee, please you make yourself available, that'd be great. That is on next month. 16th, at Borough Park. I don't think I have any other announcements, nothing from private session. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. Mr. Morales is the first, second, Mr. Sparaza, all in favor? Opposed, abstention. Thank you.